Good afternoon and happy Friday. You may not be watching it on a Friday, but it's a Friday for me, and I'm really happy about that. So, thanks for joining us today on this episode of Demystifying Microsoft Podcasts here at the Sourcepass MCOE, Microsoft Center of Excellence. I'm Nathan Taylor. I lead the team here at the Sourcepass Center of Excellence for Microsoft, and we're here to make Microsoft simple, secure, strategic, and scalable for your business. Our goal is to break down what's happening across the very complex and quick-moving Microsoft ecosystem so you can stay informed, make better decisions, and get the most out of your technology investments. And today, we're going to nerd out quite a bit on email security. And actually, not just today. This is going to be a four-part, four-week series where today I'm going to kind of give a high level and talk about some of the technologies we're building out. And in the coming weeks, we're going to go and get into the meat and potatoes of how this works. But email security is a rapidly changing space, and Microsoft's releasing a lot of products in this space and has been finally dropping some of those capabilities into the solution recently. So I'm excited to see some of this stuff go from articles from Microsoft about what they're going to do to things we can actually deploy and run with. So let's jump in and let's just talk about some of the challenges around email. So one of the challenges with email is that it's the way standards were built on the internet. The way the internet was built is it was built organically across orgs without a specific governing body. Usually, these were just multiple nerds who were trying to develop, email and websites, and they would build something, and then as things didn't work or things needed to be improved, they'd come out with different versions of those standards. That's why we have HTML4 and HTML5. We're in the fifth generation of the hypertext transfer markup language website format that all the websites are in, because as the years have gone on, we wanted to be able to do more complex things. We didn't need to stream video and have all these active websites and have security concerns in the 90s when HTML first started getting used. But today in the 2020s, it's critical. And so these standards have evolved over time. Email flows over a protocol called SMTP, which is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. And it has been around since probably the 80s. I haven't looked up when it was invented, but probably late 80s, early 90s. And it's been in use to do email. And it was not designed for a world where we had AI and phishing and threat actors. That was not really part of the consideration. It was designed for interoperability and to be easy to use. And so it's a really simple protocol where you go and you set a couple commands to an SMTP server and say, hello, I'd like to send email through you. And it'll say, yes, I'll take it. Just send the email and it goes. And in my college courses in the 2000s, we'd do that. We'd play with those SMTP servers and we'd go ping them and we'd send something through and it would show up in your mailbox. It was that simple. But very quickly after email started to take off and became common, we started getting spam. Spam was the first problem, just bulk email, unwanted email, just volumes of email. And that's not really a concern we have as much these days. There's a lot of filters and we still get a lot of email, but there's a lot of rules around, the big providers, whether it's Google or Microsoft, really start to have strict rules that if you're not sending bulk email carefully, they're just going to block it. So that's kind of a thing that they had to build out some technologies around. And some of what we're going to talk to today applies to that. But spam filtering is not a big issue that customers come to us as much around. The bigger issue these days is, of course, security. We all read about phishing, business email compromise. And the real issue becomes, how do I know that the email I'm receiving is legitimate and real and trustworthy? And how do the people I send email to know that the email I'm sending is the same, that it's from me, that it's validated, that it's safe to trust? And that becomes a bigger and bigger issue as corporations have to send from multiple services. Maybe you've got a marketing system like Constant Contact, you've got your Office 365, maybe your accounting or billing system is sending emails. So your customers need to be able to say, I can trust email from these three services from these people, but if a threat actor in, Northern Africa decides to send email as my business, I don't want that to be accepted because that's not me. That's not my legitimate email. And so obviously there's a lot of capabilities that have been built up over the years around these email filtering products. And, we're a big Microsoft shop. So we really are big believers in the Microsoft Defender for Office 365 product. And so today we're going to start with that, and then we're going to kind of buzz through a bunch of technologies that are involved here. And in the coming weeks, we're going to go ahead and talk about a number of different other solutions that are involved with that. And so let me get my window pulled up here and pull this in. I'm going to kind of dig into a lot of nerdy topics today. So full on nerd alert. What I'm going to come with today is very deep and nerdy. We will share a bunch of links to this. And the coming weeks will continue to be nerdy as we jump into some of this stuff. But I want to share just some of the technologies we can help you enable on the Microsoft side to really drive some of these capabilities. So as I mentioned, Microsoft Defender for Office 365 is our hero SKU here. This is a solution built into the Microsoft stack. It's included in a lot of the license bundles that a lot of our customers use. And so it's a great solution. We're big believers in the capabilities it adds. I'll kind of walk through what's involved here. The idea behind this is Microsoft's integrated email filtering for phishing, for viruses, for spam, and but it does take some configuration. And so we'll start here, and then we'll move on to some of the topics of what the underpinnings of this are. So let's scroll down to the solution and pricing. I think that's kind of where a lot of people want to start. Defender for Office 365 comes in two plans, Plan 1 and Plan 2. Plan 1 is, we recommend every customer run this. It includes, protecting your team, SharePoint, OneDrive, and email. So it does cover some of the other solutions and not just email, but it's mainly focused on email. It looks for malicious links and QR codes in your email, zero-day malware and viruses and attachments. It uses a large language model, so it's using AI to look against advanced phishing campaigns. Protections for internal email, because sometimes you need to be watching what people are sending to each other, or maybe if one of your accounts gets compromised, and it has real-time reporting. There is a P2 plan as well for Defender for Office 365. P1, the first plan 2, is $2 a user a month, but it also is included in a lot of the bundles we really recommend. If you're in the small business space, Business Premium's a hero SKU. We love it. We think it's the best value in the industry. It includes Plan 1, and that's a ton of the features we really think have the value for customers. The Plan 2 license is included in Microsoft's E5 products. So Microsoft 365, E5, and also in the E5 security add-on. And the exciting thing is we can bolt Plan 2 on top of Business Premium as part of that E5 security bundle, and it adds even more value to that stack. The P2 bundle adds another level of protection in Teams for links and various attachment scanning. It adds kind of a protected view for added security on attachments and Office docs. You can do attack simulation training, so you can do your phish testing, so you can start to test your users and train them on how to look for and report phishing. There's a lot more reporting, and it also kind of gets into some threat intelligence, and so automated investigation response. So it's a much more advanced security team focused license that includes phish threat testing. So oftentimes for most customers, we really think the $2 Plan 1 is what really people should be running. Let me show you some of the functionality that's included in this. They recently announced this, and we'll hit this in another tab, but they added AI-powered sentiment analysis. So Defender for Office 365 now runs a language model that is looking at the emails and looking for phishing and threat actors and business email compromise based on the words running through an AI model. And this has been a little while coming. Microsoft's been doing pieces of this, but they've dramatically improved this in the last few months. One of the issues they hit was Microsoft gets so many trillion emails a day. I mean, just the volume of email they get is staggering. That running a big AI model like ChatGPT was a significant expense. If they wanted to run a super advanced AI on every email that comes through their systems, the amount of data center horsepower they need for that would be staggering. So they had to do a lot of work to take those large language models, these AIs you interact with on like a ChatGPT, and tune it into a small language model that didn't require a lot of horsepower, but still added the value. And I think that's where a lot of AI is moving, is when you find a specific use case, you want to tune it down to be very focused on that use case. And that's what they did. And I'm really excited to see that they're enabling more and more AI here, because I think phishing is going to be one of the battlegrounds where the threat actors really leverage AI to try to compromise your users. It has inline user protection. And what that means is it takes every attachment and every link in every email and analyzes those attachments and links for malicious payloads. And it has time of click analysis. So one of your users might get an email and none of the links are malicious, but they don't open it for a day because they get it on a Sunday. And on Monday, they go to open it. Well, at that point, the threat actor has redirected that URL to a malicious payload. With these capabilities in Defender for 365, when they click, Microsoft checks that link and sees that there is a malicious payload and blocks it. So a time of click is really important with the attachments. They actually detonate the attachments in a data center. They open them and see what they do. Look for activities, look for behavior analysis there. And it's a really great piece of technology that allows them to catch malicious attachments. We've got our business email compromise attack disruption. It's a really big way that the threat actors are attacking small business. They want to find money. They want to get to money. And so they're looking for how they can compromise email accounts and start to intercept and interact with email. So Defender for 365 has all kinds of automated ways of flagging and disabling accounts that have compromised variables, and they're using AI to really start to catch it when those patterns emerge of compromised email accounts. And this is one of the most common threat incidents that happen across small business that cost money. Many customers end up with a $30 or $60 or $100,000 bill because they transfer money to the wrong company because their email was compromised. It's a very common attack. There's some security posture optimization, so they really give you some recommended security configuration to make the deployment easier. You can select your high priority accounts. If you have a larger organization, your CEO, your CFO, some of your high profile employees, they need to be monitored differently because they may be spoofed. I may not want to spend a lot of energy, and it's not worth putting the infrastructure in to monitor for every single frontline employee's email being compromised. But you do want to really pay special attention to emails that look like they're from your CEO or from the rest of your C-suite, or maybe HR or accounting. So they have ways to really highlight the accounts that you want special attention on. They have security awareness and training. We can do some investigation and threat hunting. If you get into the more advanced tools, there's some automated response and remediation. Like I said, they added a whole bunch of large language models to detect those attacker emails, just looking for those variables. And then I think the big thing is that it's all integrated into Microsoft's email security stack, their extended detection and response SIEM platform. So if you're running Sentinel, you're running Defender, what's really cool is when you are running the full Microsoft security stack, so you're not only running their email filtering, but you're running Defender for endpoints. You've got the Defender antivirus. You're the data that Microsoft's able to pull, because they're not only watching the mail flowing, but also everything happening on your endpoint. They can see all the traffic, and they're able to correlate the attack chain. And it gives them this ability to use AI and behavior analysis to catch the flow of incidents. And I'm seeing some really cool things where maybe an email came through and the filter didn't catch it, but then the Defender for endpoint noticed that the URL ended up going to a compromised website. And so that integration across the stack is really valuable if you are investigating an incident. The ability to see the entire flow of when the email came in, when they clicked on the link, where did the link go, what payload was on there. It's a powerful tool and really gives you a lot of confidence in what's protecting you on that product. So we're big fans of this product. We have a whole engagement where we deploy it to be according to our best practices and Microsoft best practices and help you get it enabled. Like I said, Microsoft's adding these really cool layers of adding large language models, AI, to their email filtering. And there's a whole article that came out here on what they're doing here. And we'll post links to this at the end of the show. We'll have links to all these articles I'm referencing. But you can kind of see here the mail flow. It comes in and they run it through a threat detection, which is machine learning models, threat feeds, antivirus engines, DMARC, spoof impersonation. It's looking at all the data points it can to understand how likely the threat is there. Then that gets loaded into a large language model and a small language model. So they have these different language models that look for different things. Maybe one looking for phishing, one for business email compromise. They run it through all that. They give it an intent analysis, and then they give it a a classification and put that all into the metadata on those emails. And if the emails are safe, they deliver them to your users. So really great article to read through. All kinds of information about how Microsoft is leveraging AI to really improve the security of this product. And I think it's a big step forward that we're really excited to see. So that's the Microsoft Defender for Office 365 product. Again, we have a whole solution around deploying that for you and can help you dial that in. It's included in Business Premium, which most of our customers are running. A large percentage of them are. And we hope that if you're looking at a solution, this is one of the big values of that Business Premium license. But if you're not on Business Premium, maybe you're running Business Standard and budget's tight, we can bolt this solution on for $2 a user. So lots of options on how to get access to this. Now, I want to bring up a topic before I move on to my next section about third-party email filters. You know, when viruses and spam and those sorts of things first became a thing, we were still running Exchange servers online back in the small business server days of the mid 2000s. Everybody had an Exchange server running under a desk or in a closet in their office, and phishing and spam especially phishing was less of an issue, but spam and viruses were a big deal. And so there popped up this whole industry of email filtering solutions. Proofpoint, Mimecast, MX Logic, all these big brands that were around that you could run through all your email through. And it was a critical thing. You had to have this in place because the volume of spam was just staggering. And so those tools got kind of created in the mid 2000s, and a lot of businesses still run them. And I think there's a lot of value in having a third party looking at your email that's not Microsoft, maybe get a different set of filters. But I do want to talk about an issue we're having, and we'll talk about it more through the next couple sections, which is one of the downsides of some of those tools is they want you to route your mail through their servers because they filter it as it comes in. And in the past, that was kind of not a big deal. In fact, there was value of doing that in the 2000s in case your internet went down at your office and your Exchange server couldn't receive email, the mail filter could pool and spool up that email for you. But as we've gotten into this future where really trying to validate whether email is legit and trustworthy, having an extra step in the mail flow actually starts to break a lot of the technologies that are getting built to validate email, because that Proofpoint server or whatever the server is you're running it through, the third-party server, they're opening and looking at that email and then sending it to Microsoft. So when Microsoft gets the email, it's been opened, it may have been modified with a disclaimer or a footnote, and it also is coming from an email, an IP address and a mail server that's not the original sender. So it really messes up a lot of the signal data. So we really like the Microsoft product, the Defender for 365, and think that's just a bare minimum. Even if you are using a third party, you want Defender for 365. But if you really want to run a third party solution, we're really big fans of moving to an API-based third party solution. And a lot of the solutions that traditionally wanted you to route your mail through them now have an option of using it over the API. And it really makes a big difference because what it means is that the mail is going straight to Microsoft, which means Microsoft gets all the data points about the validity of that email. It's unmodified. And then your third-party solution can use an API to see that email and can do the things it would have done just through an API through Microsoft. And that's a very common model now. And we really encourage people to go after that. It's causing a lot of consistent issues for people as they route their mail through other servers. And as we get into a lot of the technologies here that we're going to talk about today, it really breaks what people are building. And what's happening is that as email has become more and more of a thing where people are pretending to be other people and they're spoofing email addresses and they're compromising mailboxes and they're sending email as people, there's been a lot of effort put into bolting on some technologies on top of SMTP that validate email. First started with saying, hey, I will only accept email over an encrypted connection. That's a very common thing now where, you know, your email, if it comes non-encrypted, the connection, the sending connection is non-encrypted. That's a big problem for most mail servers. They're going to really see that as a real threat indicator. Then it started with what's called SPF record, which is your sender policy framework. And an SPF record is how we go validate that these are the services that are allowed to send as us. So I'm sending as Office 365, and I also have a MailChimp account for marketing, and I have a billing account that sends billing invoices. You put those data points in your SPF record, and receiving email servers now are more confident if they receive email from those three services. And then we added what's called DKIM, which is domain keys, identifier. I'm going to fail at this. I've got it up here in one of my other tabs. We'll get to it. But I forget what the acronym stands for. But what it really means is that the email is signed. When it's sent, they cryptographically sign the email and put that signature in the email. And when the receiving server gets that email, they can go check the body of the email, check all kinds of variables, and compare it to the signature. And if it matches cryptographically, then it's validating that it's legitimate and trustworthy email. It's another data point. Then you bolt on top of that a technology called DMARC, and we'll go into that in a second. DMARC then becomes kind of the authority behind SPF and DKIM. And it basically says, hey, I've got my DKIM and SPF pretty well dialed in. If an email's failing those, do not trust it. Delete it. If it came from me, I guarantee you that it'll have SPF and DKIM. So it's a way to really validate your email going outbound. And so that's where a lot of our conversation is going to be in the next few weeks, is the validation side is where a lot of new technologies is coming out. And as you implement those on your system, it really helps your company stand out and make sure that the email you're sending gets delivered properly. As you add more and more of these technologies to validate your email, then the recipients can really trust that mail from you is trustworthy, and it makes sure your email gets through. And as we raise this standard of email validation across the industry, then the filters are able to start to lock down what they trust. And we're already starting to see that where, I'll show you an article here in a second, but where Microsoft and Google, I think it's this article here, Microsoft, Google, and Yahoo are starting to put really strong restrictions on any senders that they see as a bulk sender, a sender sending more than 5,000 emails a day, sending to Yahoo, Google, or Outlook. If they don't pass DMARC and are aligned with SPF and DKIM, they're not going to accept it. They also want a unsubscribe link in the email, and they want to handle bounces properly. There's a few other very technical backend things. And if your company sends out a lot of email, it's worth spending some time on this, and we'll go deeper into how we can help with this. But the reality is, you as a business, if you don't have DMARC and DKIM in place, it's a real problem for your business. And so I'll show you how you can look up some of this. You can go to mxtoolbox.com. This is something anybody can do. It's free to use. It's just a website. And we're going to use we have a demo tenant we test things on. And so you can come here and you can do an MX lookup. And it helps if you type the domain properly. It works a lot better. You can see here that we've got our MX records. These are the records that tell the internet at large where to send email for us. And so these are going to Microsoft, but I can drop this down. I can do other checks. I can come here and I can look at the SPF record. And the SPF record basically tells the world who's allowed to send us me. Right now, that's protection.outlook.com that covers all of Microsoft's servers. And so I'm saying if it doesn't come from this server, it's probably not me. I can go look at DMARC. Do we have a DMARC record published? We do have a DMARC record here. There's a lot of details here. This is very technical, but basically this is saying if it doesn't align with our SPF and DKIM, then you should reject it. Don't accept mail from us that doesn't align, and send us a report at these two addresses so we know where you're getting fake email from. There's a whole DKIM solution. This won't work very well because it's I've got to pull in the exact to look up details, so that's not going to be worthwhile. But it's a real these are the technologies that are underpinning what Microsoft's doing on, and the broader world is doing to validate email. What's coming now is Microsoft's taking it to the next step. So we've got our SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, which have been around for a number of years. There's some new technologies coming out. We'll start with some of the outbound email because that's actually where a lot of this lands. Is now we're going to talk about kind of some of the things that validate your email. And then they also apply to inbound then. So SMTP DANE with DNSSEC is a way of validating mail coming and going, that it can validate the security of the server sending. And so it's another way for your email to come through with an extra check mark. It's that idea of the seal of approval. This is a certain that this email is legit. And Microsoft enabled this on their systems in the last couple of years. They've been starting to enable it, but it wasn't until July of last year that you were able to do it for inbound. It was working for outbound email for quite a while, but inbound just became something that you could enable with these MX records. Microsoft's changing from the protection.outlook.com to these mx.microsoft.com domains. And this is a big change. We've been running with protection.outlook.com domains for a long time. And you can see here, there's a whole article. We can post a link where you get this new mx.microsoft.com domain. And that really starts to build out the security on what you're sending and receiving for Microsoft. And so you run this and you end up getting a generated mx.microsoft.com MX record. You put those in place. It allows inbound emails to validate that they're sending with Dane for DNSSEC, and also your outbound emails that are also more validated. DNSSEC is a topic we'll touch on as well. The idea behind DNSSEC is it is a way for your domain to be validated on the internet that the DNS records for it are secure and trustworthy. And this is something that's been around for quite a while, but it's becoming more and more crucial for different technologies that are getting built out. And I think is really an important security step for most customers to start to enable DNSSEC. It's usually not hard to enable it. Cloudflare, GoDaddy, it's just a checkbox and they build out all the infrastructure for you and you're off to the races. But you have to go check the box. You have to enable it. And so these technologies rely on layers of technology being in place for you, where you enable DNSSEC, then you switch your MX records to this mx.microsoft, and then that enables this SMTP Dane with DNSSEC. Another layer on this is the MTS-STS. And so this is another layer where you can ensure that the proper encryption is applied on the connection. And this also relies on DNSSEC. It's already working on outbound, but I think inbound also requires the new MX records, and you've got to publish a record. It's pretty straightforward on how to do it, but it really adds that further layer of security on the Microsoft side to make sure, hey, the mail flowing out of this tenant is going over a secure TLS connection. I trust it. I've validated it multiple ways. The email is signed. The email matches SPF and DMARC. And you add all these layers, and it seems like a lot of technology to put in place. But the reality is email has become such a critical piece of our world. And if you can make your email for your company be that much more trustworthy, that's going to validate it in these mail filters. Because the way the mail filters work is they look at the email coming in and they go, I don't know who this email is from. So let's look. Who sent it? Do I trust the IP it's sent from? Is that IP an IP that sent me viruses and spam before? Is the email signed? Do I trust that the signature is good? Can I validate that the signature is actually the right signature? Was the connection secure? And as you add these additional layers of technology, you're really teaching the mail servers that you're going above and beyond in how you're validating your email, and it makes it less and less likely that you're going to get caught in a filter. And you're allowed to publish records that say, I really trust my mail flow. And so people receiving from you are less likely to accept fake email from your domain. They'll trust the email coming through. Lots of technologies I talked about today. Today is very technical, very nerdy, lots of articles, and we'll post these all in the show notes. But you can check a lot of this with just free tools, MX Toolbox, to look at those records. VeriSign has a great DNSSEC solution where you could quickly check for whether your domain has this enabled. We'll post an article about how DNSSEC works. There's a lot of technical details, but if you want to learn about it, it just talks about how the DNS records are signed. There's some real value in this outside of email, where once your DNS records are under DNSSEC, it's a lot harder to spoof you or to steal one of your subdomains. It can really help with some advanced DNS-based attacks against your tenant. So there's multiple benefits to enabling DNSSEC on your business domains. We talked about DMARC, DKIM, and SPF. Sender Policy Framework is SPF. Domain keys identified mail is DKIM. I couldn't remember that acronym earlier. And DMARC is domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. There was no way I was pulling that out of the back of my brain on a Friday afternoon. So I'm glad that Cloudflare has us covered. we'll put these articles in, a lot of nerdy stuff. The reality is our team loves deploying this stuff. We can help you with that. One of the other tools we can offer you is if you do have a commercial side of your business where you're sending a lot of customer email, maybe you send invoices or you send marketing email, you send, you've got a lot of customers, got a couple 100,000 customers. You need to be able to navigate all these rules too, because you want your marketing email to go through. We can help you with the tool that monitors DMARC and takes all that reporting and can help you understand where and when and why your mail's not going through, either from Microsoft or from your third-party marketing solutions. There's ways to align HubSpot or MailChimp, Trello or Twilio or all these different email tools to SPF, DKIM, and DMARC and make sure that they're properly aligned so that you are trusted as a bulk email sender. And we've helped a number of customers navigate that so that their marketing and business email at volume doesn't run afoul of these new rules. We got a third-party monitoring tool that does a great job called Easy DMARC. We can help you get that deployed and help you navigate that and get you to a place where your email is really in a solid position. So appreciate if you hung around this long today on the episode. I'm impressed because I went super nerdy and I went through a lot of technology. We'll have some follow-up meeting conversations in the coming weeks where we talk about SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. I think we could spend a lot of time on those. The DNSSEC and kind of talk about the technology there, walk you through how we approach it, show you some of our tools. We'll also have an episode where we talk about the mx.microsoft MX record change. It's a big thing. It's very new. It's been protection.outlook.com for forever. And so that's a big change in the system. Get a little deeper into the DANE plus DNSSEC, the MTS-STS, and the TLS-RPT, which is a reporting mechanism for those TLS reports. Pull that all together and show you how we can report on each level of that to our Easy DMARC. And then talk about how all that feeds into those Defender for Office 365 product. And this is all wrapped up for us in our email security solution, where we build out all this functionality for you and make sure that you're good to go, that you're on the right path to have your work email, your marketing email, totally dialed in for all the changing technologies and make sure you're not caught in the mail filters that are out there. And we also want to mention that we offer a free Office 365 security assessment. It's one of our processes where we can do a quick security assessment and then we'll do a deeper paid engagement on that as well. And so reach out to our team. We do have a landing page where you can get more information about this. So go to our website at sourcepassmco.com/resources/podcast. And you can subscribe to our stuff, and you can also ask for additional information from us on those websites and just say, hey, I'm interested in learning more about this technology. Will you talk me through it? Or look at my environment or help me get this implemented. We'd love to help you get all this squared away and really drive your email security posture to the next level. And so we appreciate your time today. We appreciate you tuning in for our Demystifying Microsoft podcast. We're just getting started. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any episodes. We have our YouTube channel. We try to post them on LinkedIn as well. So YouTube's probably the best place to subscribe. We'll be bringing in Microsoft experts to break down the latest and greatest news from Azure to Teams to Microsoft 365 and security and Copilot and AI. We love digging into it, helping you navigate licensing and all the changes in our industry. Follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube. Head over to sourcepassmcoe.com. And we look forward to talking to you guys on the next episode. So thanks for your time today, and thanks for letting me nerd out. Talk to you soon.